Hello and welcome to this short presentation on the satellite data for marine applications that is available from EUMETSAT. My name is Dr. Hayley King. I'm the lead marine applications expert here at EUMETSAT, and I'll be joining you today and throughout the hackathon as one of your mentors. So just to say a little bit about myself, this is me. You can see me here when I was 6 years old. I've always had a strong motivation to do things to help both people and the planet. And this has brought me towards a career working with satellite data. And I hope in the course of this presentation to convince you that the data can also be useful for doing various things to help people and the planet. Just to give you a little bit more about my background. So I have a background in oceanography. And in particular, I have a PhD in the remote sensing of harmful algal blooms from space. And this is how I first became involved in the satellite side of oceanography, learning how we can detect different things from space and validating what we get from satellites using data in situ for a particular challenge. In this case, it was looking at these harmful algal blooms that affect the human health and aquaculture sustainability of the coast of Southern Africa. After that experience, I started working in general in research and seeing how we can use satellite data for various different marine applications. And eventually this led me to working at EUMETSAT now, where my job is mostly to help other people to use the data that we provide for a broad array of marine applications. And that's what brings me to you today. So who are EUMETSAT? You may not have heard of us. I hope you have, but if you haven't, you'll undoubtedly have seen some of the data that we provide on a day-to-day basis, because we're actually Europe's big weather data provider. So we provide data from satellites that feeds into weather forecasts. So you'll see information that we provide every single day, I'm sure. We're located in Darmstadt in Germany, so right in the middle of the European continent, and we are an international member state organization. So we have 30 different member states that we operate satellites on behalf of. So our main mandate there is to provide weather and climate data for these member states, and also then to build additional capability by supporting other programs. So in this regard, we work very closely with the European Commission, and we operate a number of satellites for them under the Copernicus program. We also have a broad array of international collaborations, particularly strongly with the African continent, because where our satellites observe, but broadly across the planet with all different space agencies and those involved in weather and environmental monitoring. In terms of satellites that we operate that have a marine-related mandate, you can see the current list of missions here, and also the ones that are coming in the future. And as you can see, it's going to be a very busy time for us in the coming years. We're operating more and more marine satellites, providing data that can help support relevant applications that affect us around the world today. And those satellites provide a variety of different data. I've summarized some of the main data streams that we provide data from here. So we have altimetry data, sea surface temperature data, and ocean color data that come from our missions. And both individually and by working synergistically, this data can support a huge array of marine applications, everything from understanding how our climate is changing, to informing oceanographic models of currents and things like that, to looking at water quality and how this affects aquaculture or fisheries, to looking at things like how temperature affects corals or how it affects distribution of fisheries. All this data can feed into a bunch of different applications. And I make the point here as well that the ocean is not something that exists in isolation. It's part of the bigger Earth system. So as well as having this data, we also can work with data that we provide from the weather side, from the climate side, and from the land side to see how these different aspects interact and force the way our oceans work. So what sort of applications benefit from our data? So our data comes directly from the satellites and we get it out to you, the user, as quickly as possible. So really our data is particularly useful when you need data as fast as possible. So you need data right now to see what's going on, see about the situation that's currently happening. So if you need data as fast as possible, our near real-time data streams will be particularly useful for you. We also provide the data at its native or sensor-based resolution. So it typically is the highest resolution in terms of time and space that you can get. And it's also very suitable if you want to do any kind of custom-based data processing. So you're working on a new application of satellite data, maybe our standard products that are provided across the different services are not useful for you. You need to tweak them, customize them for your own purposes. We provide data at very high levels, as we call it. So it comes pretty much directly from the satellite. You can apply your own corrections. You can regrid it in different ways. You can process different geophysical parameters out of it. We have data that can help you with that. In terms of the themes for this hackathon, I just wanted to pull out a few nice examples that show how our data can be relevant for them. So in terms of keeping our ocean healthy and keeping us healthy when we interact with it, our data can say a lot about water quality, and there's just two examples here. On the left-hand side, showing a harmful algal bloom detected using our satellite data. This is part of the GMES in Africa project. And you can see that this bloom had a substantial impact on the ecosystem. The bottom right photos there show the impact of this harmful algal bloom. It caused a deoxygenation event, which killed off a lot of fish and lobsters in this area. And there's also potential that these blooms have toxins associated with them, so they can also make the seafood and things that are harvested from these areas of the ocean not good for human health. They can cause various different side effects. If you've ever gotten sick from eating mussels, it might be one of these that was responsible. So our satellite data can play an important role in helping to manage the impacts of these and prevent impacts both on the ecosystem and on human health. On the right-hand side is another image of an algal bloom. This is in the Baltic Sea, and here you can see the cyanobacteria that form on the surface, and these can cause impacts in these areas as well. So we can use satellite data to detect these kind of algal blooms towards understanding and keeping our oceans healthy. In terms of a safe and powerful ocean, I've pulled out two core images here, I think, that show the sorts of things that our satellite data can be used towards. On the left, you can see that you can use satellite data for detecting ice. So in terms of conducting marine activities in the icy oceans, you can use satellite data to inform where the ice is. Of course, we can also use it to understand the impacts and changes in climate, looking over long time periods. And on the right-hand side there, you can see some of our altimetry data, showing the winds and wave heights associated with storms. Of course, very useful for marine planning, but also for disaster preparedness and response. In terms of the living ocean, one thing we've been looking at a lot lately is the impact of marine heat waves. And you can see here some snapshots. So on the left, there is an instantaneous satellite image from one of our sensors showing the sea surface temperature. And then on the right-hand side, some temporal analysis looking at time series of sea surface temperature data from the Copernicus Marine Service, identifying when these marine heat waves are happening. And these can have severe impacts on ocean ecosystems, particularly things like corals, but also increasingly on different ecosystems upon which we depend, such as fisheries. On the bottom right there, we also see an interesting image. This is the ocean color. And you can see this really strange white patch. And this was something that was actually reported to us from a member of the public saying, what is going on here? I've not seen the ocean be this colour before. This is around Scotland. And actually, this is an unusual bloom of coccolithophores. These are not an unusual species to occur, but they're unusual to happen this close to the shore in this area. So we were able to help them identify what was going on here. These things are not harmful, so it was good for them to know. They play a very important role in how our ocean carbon cycle functions. So a really useful thing to be able to detect from space. In terms of inspiring via the ocean, we use our data in a lot of different ways. So we produce training material. You can see an example here on the left of helping people learn how to program using our data as an inspirational case study. We've also visualized our data in various different ways. And I would always encourage people to come up with new ways to visualize it to help people understand what it's doing. And we've seen our data used in a whole broad variety of different ways as well. We've seen it turned into music, turned into crochet patterns for scarves. We've seen it recreated using modeling clay, in cakes, and in Lego. So I would really encourage you to go wild and show how you can convert this data or these numbers into something that people can really understand and be inspired by. In terms of the support we can offer you, there's lots and lots of different resources out there. The core one would be our help desk. So ops@eumetsat.int is the place to get in touch if you want to talk about any of our data or ask how we can help find the right data to match your application. Please do feel free to contact us. We have a user portal available at user.eumetsat.int, which contains all of our product-based information, so all the technical detail you need to work with our data, as well as loads of examples of case studies and supporting tools and software that you can use. On tools or software, we also have a whole GitLab full of free and openly available code that you can use, including a variety of Jupyter notebooks. If you're not yet familiar with programming, these might be a good place to start. Supporting these, we have different courses. So this is one thing we're involved in the hackathon, but we also have various online courses if you want to learn more about our data. And there's some standalone resources from past courses available on our Moodle page there as well. On YouTube, we have a variety of different video tutorials, particularly looking at things like our data services to help you access our data. And we also have a variety of case studies, as I mentioned before. You can find these through the user portal, but they're also connected often now to our Jupyter notebook. So you can actually see the case study example and recreate the data analysis that we did behind it. Thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to meeting you all during the course of the hackathon. In the meantime, if you have any questions about our data, do feel free to get in touch with our help desk and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.